Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Um, let's uh, let's not get too distracted today. Last week we spent a bunch of time talking about different things, um, things that are very important. But today I really want to write some code, so we'll get into it. Um, it's actually a beautiful day today outside. A little bit chilly, but that's to be expected. Autumn time. Um, anyway, we are looking at the build from the update today, and there are a couple of things to be aware of. Um, so, field state number string is not assignable to type field state string, or number. The type number is not assignable to type string. Um, so there's some interesting stuff going on here. We want our field state to be a string or a number. Well, we'll dig into that. The other one is this disabled one. The disabled one, I don't know a lot of. I didn't dig into it before the stream, um, so I'm not sure what fix will be needed. I think the change is catching us out here is that we're inferring the type of custom field controls. Um, and we're also inferring the types of signal forms set on native inputs. Hey, Michael Small, a lot of subtle things like type inference and bindings in the last couple of releases. Exactly. So the 21RC1 specifically calls out that they're inferring the types of signal forms set on native inputs. So we're going to take a look at this change. Do they have tests around it? So we've got number or range, or date time, and we've got a checkbox. So we're digging out a lot of different types. What I'm looking for are the tests here. So check if the field is present. That works. It should infer an input without a type as a string field. So this input should be inferred as a string. And it looks like they're doing exactly what we're running into, right? Is not assignable to type this. And they're running through text should be string, radio should be, so number should be string or number. And so they're strongly typing this, and it makes sense what's going on here. Just by looking at the tests, we can see what's going on there. So this one makes sense. And let's go ahead and just change this from being a text input to a number input. And that's going to fix the inference here. Hey, Ole. Welcome to the stream, brother. It's good to have you here. So fixing that, fixes one of our three errors. The other error that I'm curious about is the disabled is not allowed on nodes using the field directive. And I'm not sure how to feel about that one, or what I should be doing. So here we're binding to disabled. And like if I comment this out, it's not going to work. So if I remove this, right? Our error is going to go away. So now we're just down to the 1. But I do want this to be disabled. And so that's my question. What do you think about TanStack query? Is that implying it should just be up to the disabled state function only? And that's what I'm not sure. I'm not sure what happened here. And so I'm trying to say make required inputs diagnostic less noisy. Report invalid bindings on form controls. This is the one that I think is the problem. But I'm not totally sure about that. So they've added the form field unsupported binding, which seems to be what we're hitting. On a field, yep, raises when the user has an unsupported binding on a field directive. And then, yeah, it's not allowed on using the field directive. So if we take a look at our tests, we don't have that input type equals binding property, input name. So it should be kept in sync with the form UI control bindings defined in this. Invalid binding names. So we can't value checked, errors, invalid, disabled, disabled reasons. So disabled is specifically called out. So disabled reasons, that makes sense. Name, read only, touched, max length. So all of these bindings are not allowed. What do we use instead of disabled? Time to do some digging. So we know that disabled was specifically added. And these are the signal forms examples. So let's look for disabled here. That's disabling a button. Let's take dynamic field state hidden, conditionally disabling the field. So I've been abusing this. I should have read this before. And Michael, you're 100% correct. We should be using the disabled function. So a function used within a schema to define the logic that determines whether a field should be disabled takes a field path and a predicate function. So here, inside of the schema, we can say disabled this. Okay. So here, we take this out, and we want form.name disabled, so we need to go into the schema that we're using. So we've got our to-do schema. Let's go take a look at our schema. And inside of here, we can see that we're using the standard validation schema, right? So Angular uses the standard schema v1, but we can also add other stuff to this schema. So here we want a disabled, and our disabled is going to be form.id, because that was the one we were disabling up here. Was it the one we were disabling? Yeah, form.id. So form.id, and what we want this to be disabled when form.done. And oh, it needs to be a function, right? If we go take a look at the code here, so we need the value to grab the value from it. So we need to grab the value of from the what's passed in. So here we can grab value of, and then we can say, hey, value of form dot done. And that should give us our disabled. So that should fix that disabled, which fixes one of our issues. The last issue is on the input.ts. And our input.ts binds to a field. Ooh. This one is interesting. Because we are passing through the field and we are passing through the disabled. So for right now, let's just take this out. So let's create an instance where this would be, so this is the app input. So let's find one here that has an app input on it. So right here, form.description. Let's again go to the model and we'll disable form.description is going to be disabled. And we want to use the value of function again. And we're going to also disable it when the form is done, or when it's done. We'll see if this one works. Yeah, you may be better off reading the tests, and maybe maybe that's the right way to go. So to do on line 61 also has an issue. No, it doesn't. Did I just scroll up and I'm just looking at old errors? This isn't even the case anymore. Let's go ahead and just restart the build and see if I've got something cached. And this, no, I don't. So to do TS on line 61. Let's just search for disabled. I'm not seeing disabled anywhere. Why is it saying that I'm binding to a disabled here? Model.done. Source components to do. And even inside of here, I don't have disabled at all. Let's just save this again. Apparently I didn't have it saved, maybe? Yeah, you don't define disabled as an attribute. So when we look at what they're saying here, you conditionally disable a field by adding disabled to the schema. So when you set up your schema, there's a function that allows you to disable it. This is actually, I actually like this because it gives us more control. And where's my Excalidraw? Excalidraw, there we are. Let's get a new one. Reset the canvas. So let's say, we've got this form, right? And within this form, we've got some inputs. Right, and I think we can distribute these. Let's center them. And I guess we can't distribute them, but right, we've got this form. And let's say we want to disable this field, right? There are a couple ways we could do it. If we use the disabled binding here, right? Well, that some signal has to be sourced, and we'll represent the code behind as this blue box, right? Some signal has to exist here, right? Right. It has to be sourced from here, and there are a couple of ways we could do it. We could use computed or something, but it has to exist here. And so this binding strongly couples this to this to this, right? This is a tight coupling. If, on the other hand, and let's, we'll represent the model here. If we don't do this and we instead allow, or the schema to say, right, well, this schema now tells us that when you're interacting with a form of this shape, then this field will be disabled during certain, during certain pieces of logic that you define. The nice thing about this is that this logic can be tied to a whole bunch of different things. We could do the same here with the computed, or, if we move maybe this logic to disable the field to a signal store, right? And I'm running out of places to put things, right? If we move it to a signal store, now we've got, right, we've got some signal in our signal store, but we've also got some signal disabled equals computed, right? And then our binding becomes, oh, come on. Let's group this. And now we can move this around. 8. Oops, don't do that. Why aren't these grouped? They are grouped. I must have done something there. So this is our signal store, and to bind to, say, this one, for example, our binding becomes disabled equals store dot some signal disabled, right? And come on, let's group this. We'll move this over here also. So the reason that you would go about it in this way, and it seems a little bit, what do we want to call it? It seems a little bit non-traditional is the term that I'll use here, right? Because traditionally we've bound ourselves to the disabled, and it's so traditional and so ingrained that I did it, right? But what I was doing was wrong, and I was showing you guys something wrong. The reality is that I should have read better and seen that I needed to be using the disabled. And this allows us to decouple disabling of fields from the form itself, right? Because we've got the strongest coupling here. We're coupling the disabled to a signal, or we're coupling the disabled to a computed that's inside of, whatever. Or if we go signal form, again, we could be, disabling here based on a computed, or, or we can just say, hey, when you're using this schema, this field should be disabled in this case. Michael Small, I recall there was some discussion in public by the team in a PR related to this. I think there was questions from them themselves. Yeah, and this is definitely a different way of doing it, right? I'm not going to say, like, there's benefits to this style. And the benefits to this style is it's traditional. And it's ingrained in everybody's head, right? Everybody understands that you use disabled to disable a field. The benefits to this style is we've decoupled our state. We've decoupled our form logic from our form. And this is a big benefit, because we can run tests on this and test that things happen when we expect them to happen. If we want to test with these coupled states that this field disables, we've got to write component tests. In this case, we can isolate and test the schema. And when we test our schema and our schema does what we want it to, then we can rely on the Angular team having written their own tests that binds this disabled to the field. So we test our schema, but we don't test the framework. In these two cases, where one, we're tightly coupled here, especially here, this signal store is coupled strongly to this form. Right, because we're having to do this store and some signal, and right. I mean, there's arguments for and against this. Again, it really comes down to an it depends type scenario. This is the state that I try to get to, where the form and the UI acts independently of the logic and the services and the state. This is when you decouple like this, it's much easier to make changes. You don't accidentally forget to disable something if, say, you reorder your form or you move something around, or right? The other thing is this schema can be used in multiple places. You could apply this schema to a form that doesn't exist and still disable that form. So there's a lot of benefits here. But sometimes the disabled condition can be more dynamic. For example, we might depend on an element in an array. Will it be easy to get that from the schema? And that's a good question. And our disabled is very dynamic here, right? And we'll show this off. We're basing whether or not we're disabled on if the form is, if the done variable is set to true. So let's go take a look at the form. But you're absolutely right. The trade-offs can be subtle. So here we are. We're again in here. Our ID is not disabled. As soon as I check this, my ID is now disabled. We can tell. Is that not disabled? It is not disabled. The other thing that should be disabled is this description. So as soon as we check this, we can see, that's interesting. What am I doing wrong here? We can see the name looks disabled until I focus on it. Like that's definitely in a disabled state. Let's run a test here. Right? So we're going to say, hey, const done equals this. We're going to say console.log done, and then we're going to return done here. So let's inspect this. What is going on here? I apologize for this. There we go. There's something going on with the it's light switch is what it's called, and it's what swaps my dark mode and light mode. And it's specific. I think it's, oh, there we go. That one's fixed. I don't know what's going on. And now we just swap back. Let's go take a look at this. Or light switch. I've got it set sunrise to sunset. Let's set it to manual right now. Because I think what's happening is when I'm manually toggling it, and I had a different tool that was doing. Oh, come on. I apologize about this. I've got it set to manual. Boom. So now we're set to dark mode. I'm curious, like the issue that I'm having is here. And now that one's fine. But I'm not sure why. I think there's a bug going on here, or there's something fighting with my light switch. I may go back. I had another one that was toggling light mode and dark mode. Oh, it's doing it again. Like I haven't had problems with this tool before. So it is set to manual. We'll turn it off. We'll turn it back on. I may have to go get my other tool back because I'm not interested in this problem. This is not something I want to fight with. I may have to what a mess. I apologize for that. Hey, Alex, welcome to the stream, man. Are you kidding? I apologize for the light mode. I don't know what's going on with this tool. I've not had problems with it before today, but for some reason, it like doesn't want to stay turned off. I have another tool. What a mess. What a real mess. This is frustrating. Because I know some of you out there are definitely watching in the dark, and so let me first thing let's do is instead of fighting the tool, let's just turn the tool off. And then I need over here. Let's search my files. Toggle dark. Let's look at my downloads. Should be able to install this tool pretty quickly. And let's take this over here so I'm not flash blinding you guys again. Shade, no. No, no. I apologize for this, you guys. I did not expect to have problems with a tool that's been working forever, but that is the curse of a streamer, right? I don't have it. Let me find. Let me search over here, and I'm going to download it. Toggle dark mode Windows. It's saying install Microsoft Power Toys and use the light switch toggle theme tool. It breaks. There it is. It's called Auto Dark Mode. Let's go ahead and download Auto Dark Mode. So I'm downloading this right now as we speak. The X64. Let me look at chat while this happens. So, oh no, Jason's going to figure out that I've been trolling Jason about signal forms the whole time, probably. Alex, I saw a joke the other day. Why doesn't our app support dark mode? You can't center a div in dark mode. Exactly, Alex. And I did want to call out that Alex Rickabaugh is Synallax. He's working on the signal forms. And I just saw on Twitter that he just did a stream where he designed like a dynamic form. You guys should go check out his tool. If you want to post your link in the chat, Alex, to your to the example you built, it was really cool, amazing. And the cool thing I like about signal forms is it changes the way we think about Angular. We talked about how moving the disabled out is one piece of it, but there's so many things that we can do that are so much easier now. Okay, oh, I need to click the save button. I was like, it should be downloaded by now. Let's go ahead and open this installer. Install it in English. I guess I had Auto Dark Mode already installed. So let's go ahead and install this one. Yeah, there we go. That's the one, Ole. That is the tweet, and we can bring that one up. Let's go ahead and launch Auto Dark Mode. And where are you? Oh, I apologize. Let me move this over to my other monitor. Sorry about the flashbang there, everybody. From sunset to sunrise, yes. Find geo coordinate. Oh, we'll follow Windows Nightlight. That's fine. Yes. So there we go. Okay, so this should now allow me to go here and toggle theme. And everything's dark mode. Okay. So this is the tool I was using before the auto dark mode. And the thing I like about auto dark mode is as soon as I manually toggle it, it pauses. I don't know what was going on, why I kept going back to a light theme, but I apologize for that. For the viewers who are sensitive to light mode, that's one of the things you've got to, you've got to be on top of as a streamer. But yeah, here is the here's the tweet. I thought there was a link here. I think there's a link to it if you sign in. I'm not signed in. What I do want to do, though, is now that we can take a look at this, let's take a look at our console. Let's refresh. So here we go. So as soon as I disable this, done is coming across as true. Okay, these are now disabled. I don't know. Oh, in the first comment. Oh, yeah. I didn't look at the comments on that. So thank you, Ole, for being on top of that. Another curse of the streamer, right? We saw that it was disabling name for whatever reason. It's no longer doing that. It is now disabling the ID and the description, like we said, in our code. And it may have come down to, no, we restarted it. Maybe I didn't save it. I'm not sure what was going on. I had problems with the saving before, right? But we can see that we've disabled the form.description. And if we take a look at the description, our form.description is a custom input. It's an app input, and we are passing the field in. And then inside of this input, we're accepting the field as a field tree. And then we're binding to that field in the component, but we've removed the stuff that I was doing wrong where we were binding to the disabled. So we could do the same with the rest of our inputs, right? If we want to disable, so we've got our star input. We could disable our star input also. Let's go do that in our model. So the name of the field is the task importance. So if we go here into our model, and the first thing let's do is let's put this back to the way it was before, where we're returning the value from there. And then again, we want to disable form.taskImportance. And then we're going to bind to done. One thing I'm curious about here, is we're obviously disabling a bunch of things. And so the disabled takes in a path. But I'm curious, and we'll experiment with this really quickly because I haven't done done too much with it yet, but oh, what is going on? So these ones are definitely disabled. Did I not save it? Oh, I've got the random number disabled. Why did I disable random number here? So that button should be disabled. We should fix that. But I'm also curious if we do this. So here, if we go here and we go disabled, can I go form.id, form.description, form.task, or we'll do random number because we need to fix that one, and form.name. And here we want value of and that doesn't work. However, right, we can't pass in however, we can go const fields equals this, and then we can say, hey, you know, we can say for field in fields, boom. I need my let here. Let, and I think I'm overriding field, right? Like I'm shadowing field here. Oh no, it's fine. So now can I do field? Oh, come on. That's fine. Const works here. But field, wait, why is it a string? Oh, for of. Thank you. But we're still saying it doesn't. Oh, that's interesting. So the problem we have here is because we've got number and strings in here. So ID and random number are numbers, description and name are strings. And so when we look at this, we get number and then child or string and then child. This is saying that argument of type number or child or string or child is not assignable to type number child, right? Because it's trying to infer the value here. Oh, do I have Twitch mods on today? Probably not, but const fields equals. Well, could I also do this? I'm curious. Oh, this probably won't work, right? That doesn't work, even though now fields is right. We've narrowed the type. So you're saying to use fields array. It likes that, but I've got to give it an array type. Can I go unknown here? Doesn't like that, but I could probably go any, right? Okay. This one works. The any works. And this is where we have to be careful. One of the things to recognize is that when we're working in schemas or things like that, we're typically working in an area where we can look at this almost like a library. You know, I typically do not like an any here. And it bothers me so much that in the back of my head, I'm like, what can I do to get rid of this any? Typically, and I'm saying typically here a lot, right? Because my brain is focusing on me talking, but also trying to figure out what I want to do here. This any is not bad. I'm not going to say it's bad. This is something that you have to do sometimes in TypeScript just to recognize that, you know, narrowing this type too much is not going to help us. And we saw that because as soon as we take this array any off, then we get, you know, the type is more proper. That's so we're getting an object of this number child, or right, and for anybody who is newer to Angular, these thetas are typically the way that Angular tells us, hey, don't use this. This is for us to use. You could probably use it, but you're probably going to get in trouble, right? Because these are kind of reserved. Well, they aren't kind of. These are reserved for the Angular team to do with and change as they please. And they probably aren't going to change a lot, but it quite possibly could for anybody. Okay, Michael, thank you for the thank you for the dad jokes. We're gonna leave it, and I want to be really clear. This any, well, yes, Lint's gonna yell at us, right? Because use never here. Never isn't what we want, is it? No, right? This any, our linting tools are going to get mad at us. There's just a lot of things. Yeah, right. It is an interesting friction point, and this is what I wanted to call out, is these friction points exist because we're still largely experimental. And well, it's not even largely. One of the things I'm trying to do, I grew up learning to qualify everything I said. We're not largely, we are experimental. This hasn't been released dev preview. we expect rough spots. We expect things to, to be a little bit like, right? Sometimes it's the reality of experimental code. The Angular team is still, working on this code as we speak. They're still polishing off rough edges. And I'm not even going to say this is wrong. When you put together libraries and things like that, you sometimes have to use any. And then let the type compiler infer better types later on. The reason that I try to avoid any as much as possible on stream is I want to teach good practices. And good practices are, as far as I'm concerned, to avoid any as much as possible. I don't want to teach bad habits of just throwing an any on something and moving on. I would much rather prefer us to figure out, what it should be. And then, we could make this a never or an unknown, but then we would have to create a type guard here that would narrow the type for disabled. And I'm not sure that that is the best use of our time in an experimental code base. So for right now, we're just going to say, hey, it is what it is. We're going to say task importance needs to be in here too. And I'm sure the community will come up with a better pattern than what we're doing here. We've got this pattern of, hey, we want to disable a whole bunch of fields based on the value of done, is basically what we're creating here. When we do this, boom, this is disabled. We don't have disabled working here. We'll get disabled fixing here, we'll get disabled fixed here and here. So these two controls, we didn't properly set up our disabled. And this is an important piece of developing custom controls. So this number control is properly disabled, but this control is not proper. Our star control is not properly disabled. Our random input control is not properly disabled. So let's go ahead and commit this code because we're in a good place. So let's take a look at what we've done. Oh, we fixed this up. So let's go ahead and stage that piece and we'll get that committed. I do like to be a lot more granular on my commits. So this is us working with disabled. This is us again working with disabled. And this is us setting up the disabled for the whole form. So we'll go ahead and do that and let our AI decide what our commit message should be. So now we're in a good place. So the next thing we want to do is let's go fix our random number input. So in our components, or is it in our controls? There's our random number. So this is our random number input. And inside of here, we aren't using disabled. So let's add a disabled input, disabled. And this is our model dot, oh no, we don't want models on these. Our min value should not be a model. This should be an input. I thought we changed this last time. Maybe we changed it on something else. And here, this should also be an input. And the reason we don't want these to be models is that we don't expect them to change. Like they should come from the outside. So our input for our disabled is not required, but we're going to start with a false on it. And this false isn't going to mean anything because Angular is going to bind to it and change it right away. But in the case where maybe we don't have a field binding or something like that, which wouldn't make a whole lot of sense because we're using a form value control here, but we're being good citizens, right? And so the last thing we want to do here is we just want to say, hey, disabled equals disabled. And so now our button is disabled. And now if we go back to our form and we check it, we can see, hey, our button now is properly disabled. And when we uncheck it, and these are definitely the types of things we should do. And so the next thing to do is let's take a look at, well, let's go ahead and commit that. Again, being granular in our commits. And I like to be granular in my commits because if I need to roll something back or go back and see what changed, I can do so. At some point, we're going to run out of AI writing my commits for me, but hopefully that doesn't happen before, before the end of the stream. So my star input also, okay, this is the one that we changed. Here, we also want disabled equals input false. Interesting that these aren't needed. This isn't needed. Turn off the multi-cursor before before you do that, right? We still get the same, it can be properly inferred. And actually, this model also doesn't need to be here. It can be properly inferred. So that simplifies our code a bit. This is probably personal preference. I prefer to let the type system try to infer things when it can, because when I go in and try to force things, sometimes I make mistakes or I forget to change things or things like that. And if I let the type system handle what it can, then it typically, right, I don't forget to change things and other issues like that. So here, can I add just a disabled to this? Let's just see what happens if we add a disabled class to that. So as soon as I add the disabled class, it doesn't help. So that's fine. It was a good thought by me and the AI. But here we're just going to have to say, hey, we want our disabled on disabled. And then on this button, we also want our disabled on disabled. So now when we go ahead and save that and refresh, we're now disabled. So now all of our inputs properly disabled, and we learned something, right? We learned that I was showing the wrong way to do disabled. The Angular team rightly corrected me by in the correct way to do this. The correct way to do this was to add the errors, because the errors forced me to go find the answer. And the answer is, hey, you were doing it wrong. This is the right way to do it. And that solves the issue. And now everything properly enables and disables as we would expect. And the really cool thing about this is, if we go back to our discussion here, where did I put my Excalibur? We have two fields here. If we take a look at this field and this field are bound to the same, you know what, I probably need a class disabled there to get the the proper hover effect. Let's go take a look at Daisy really quick. Where's my Daisy? Daisy UI. Daisy UI, and let's take a look at our badge, card carousel, collapse, countdown, keyboard list. That's not what we're looking for. Our rating here. Let's take a look at our rating and see. So here, read only. So what we probably want to do how are they doing the read only mask? 1 star. So we got the rating. Oh, they're using divs instead of inputs. Yeah, I don't want to dig into that too much. That's me getting distracted again. But we've got this field and this field bound to the same input. This goes back to your question earlier, where, you know, why disabled versus this? We could absolutely have added disabled to 2 fields, right? And based it on whatever. Again, if we did it this way, then we would have to have these disabled in 2 places. And that's fine. But if the disabled is more complicated than that, or if the field changes or things like that, then our disabled here, where it's decoupled from the actual markdown, the markdown from the HTML, and it exists in the schema for the form itself. And we can look at the schema as being the rules for the form, and these are some of the rules on the form. Some of the other rules are the values, the validations, the error messages, things like that. The schema is where we collect all of these rules and we keep them in one place. The really cool thing about this is we could just as easily create another form and use the same schema, but maybe the form looks different. Oh, disabled state also affects validation. Disabled fields are always valid. That is a really good call out and something that I wasn't even thinking about. Like, the decoupling is a big deal, but the fact that once these are disabled, they're always valid makes sense. And the reason that makes sense is, once you get into a disabled state, say we've disabled this, but say, we'll pretend that this is disabled, but let's say, based on the, based on the sum of the digits or something like that, right? Your rating can't be more than the sum of the digits. I don't know. one of my favorite episodes of Futurama is when Bender's been sentenced to death, and they use a random number generator as as when he will be he will be terminated, and you've got people as a random number, but the reality is, right, like getting a random number that adds up to less than the current value is remarkably difficult, because you have no control. Okay, here we go, 200, right? In this case, let's say that these two values are disabled. Let's say that for whatever reason, our rating can't be higher than the sum of these digits for whatever reason. I don't even know what that reason would be. And these are disabled. Well, there's no way for me to fix that. So validating these values makes no sense. Because the user can't fix it, the form isn't invalid because these have been disabled. There's no way for the user to fix it. What are they supposed to do? Click this button, right, in a random number in a random number scenario, hopefully getting a random number that allows them to make the form valid. Exactly, Alex. And that showing an error, Alex puts it succinctly, showing an error to the user for a problem they can't fix is bad user experience. 100%. And sometimes to users, it feels like randomness, right? So tying it to this random button may feel like randomness to the user. Especially like at my current job, we deal with a lot of financial products and things like that. I am not the best educated in financial products, and sometimes the rules around financial products seem random to me, right? In previous jobs, I've worked for auto auctions, and sometimes the rules around auto auctions and finance and stuff like that seems random to the person doing it, right? In cybersecurity, the rules that an organization wants to apply may seem random to the user. And so, maybe this random number button is a good stand-in or just validation that the user does not understand and cannot fix. And that's something that when we're designing software and applications for people who are going to consume our applications, we need to be aware of that. Another area where we tend to make mistakes, right, is here. These errors are much more friendly than what we typically write as developers. If we go back into our model here, right? Typically what we get in this scenario is right? This is the typical error that we often see in forms. This is a horrible experience unless your developers or your target audience are developers. But I would even argue in the case that you're working with developers or engineers, this is still a bad experience because technically it's not null, right? Technically the value here is an empty string. But the value could also be undefined, like, right? but we write these error messages that make sense to us, but they don't help the user. Alex is talking about here, where when we're creating applications and experiences for the people that we're, that are going to be our users, right? The people who are going to be paying our bills, or the people who are going to make our application worthwhile. These messages matter, right? Please provide a name for your task. Tells us, oh, we're missing a name. But we're also saying, hey, the name has to be at least 3 characters, right? Because I could say, hey, and we're giving them the ability to fix their own problems by knowing what they need to fix. The reason that's important is, one, and this is how you sell it to your bosses. Better error descriptions are going to cut down on the number of calls to your support. The easier it is for somebody who doesn't understand your software to fix their own problems, people don't want to be on hold. People don't want to deal with support. People don't want to read. The easier it is for them to solve it, the less time they're going to spend on support. Number 2, the easier it is for them to solve it, they're going to be talking to their friends and they're going to be like, oh, I was working with this software and it is so nice because I was doing something and it walked me through how to fix it, right? This is the importance of the user experience. Right, the built-in descriptions for stuff like this is such a good win. It's huge, and there's another reason that I went with Zod. And the other reason that I went with Zod is the last piece. Like today, I wanted to get TanStack table in, and we can probably do it. We've got time to do that today. But the other piece is I want to have just a box over here where they can drop JSON in, right? Give them the ability to export and import this task list using JSON. And so if they're going to be pasting JSON, we want to be able to provide good error messages. There's a fun distinction with read-only. Read-only fields do contribute to validation because we expect the UI to provide a clear mechanism for addressing issues that arise. And that, see, this is why if you guys go to like any of the Angular, what do we want to call them, like conventions, or any like things like ngconf or ngde or Angular Vikings or things like that, and you get a chance to talk to somebody like Alex, or somebody like Marko Stanmirovic or Brandon Roberts, or there's a reason that they're at the top of their fields, and the reason is the way they think about just software in general is different. So Alex pointing this out is the reason that if you ever get a chance and you're at one of these conferences, you should go say hi and just talk to him. And right, it's not to go be like a fanboy, even though I am a huge fan of all of the names that I just mentioned and a whole bunch of other names that I didn't mention. I'm a huge fan of all of these people. The reason that I like talking to them is that they bring up stuff like this, where there's a difference between read-only and disabled. Right? Disabled doesn't make the form invalid. Read-only does make the form invalid. And if you're going to make something read-only, you should be the one fixing it, not your user. And that's when conferences. That's the word I was looking for. Uh, one of the tough things about presenting or being a streamer or anything like that, right, is the amount of context you have to keep in your head, the code. Um, there's other things that I do where I worry about how I speak. I worry about, am I being entertaining? There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on in your head. Um, and pulling back the curtains a little bit as to why sometimes when you watch streamers can seem dumb, or streamers are going to miss obvious things. Or I really appreciate the help you guys give me in chat, because I'm trying to maintain like 5 to 7 things in my head at the same time as trying to code and sound coherent and do all of this other stuff. Some people don't like backseating. I don't care. The reality is, I'm here to help give you guys good content. But I also want to make sure that what we're doing is correct. And if you feel like you need to correct me, please do so. If I don't like the correction, I'll say it, but I'm not going to be mean about it. But anyway, getting back to that, we do have Alex. I 100% agree with that. Alex says we have some amazingly talented and knowledgeable people in our community. We have some of the most incredible people, and most of them are very, very friendly. Right? I try to be friendly. I will admit, if you see me in public, I'm much more shy in public than the persona that I put on for streaming. You may have to approach me, but I try to be friendly. And that's the way I feel a lot of people in the community are. There's the public persona that we wear when we're presenting or in public, and then there's the personal persona that we have. And sometimes those are at odds. One of the things I tell people, when people ask me, "Hey, I want to get into streaming, what do I do?" The person you are on stream is a character. That character is who you play when you're streaming for entertainment purposes. Like when you're streaming, you're entertaining. If you're not entertaining, you're losing viewers, right? So you need to be entertaining. So you need to create this persona, this character that you're comfortable being in front of other people. But that persona and that character is going to be different from who you are in real life, because in real life, I feel like I'm a boring person a lot of times. I'm more quiet, and things like that. It, right, I'm getting sniped by comments again, and I go off on tangents. But you know, the the point is, go to conferences. Um, the reason you go to conferences, the talks are amazing, and people put a lot of work into the talks. So you go to conferences for the talks. That's the number one reason you should go to conferences, is for the learning and the talks. The number two reason you should go to conferences is for the networking. To be able to sit down at lunch with somebody like Alex and just talk about stuff, and you know, don't feel like you have to go and interview them or anything like that. Just sit down and talk, and you'll learn some stuff. I don't want to. I've had a couple of opportunities to sit down with Alex, and I've learned some amazing things about him, that he shared with me that I don't think is my place to share. But often you'll talk about things that aren't even programming related, but they're going to help with you learn more about the person and how they view the world, which can help modify how you view the world, and that can help with your engineering. Just go hang out, have fun, is what I'm saying. That's why I've gone to 2 conferences exactly. And that's why I was so disappointed that I wasn't able to make it to NGConf this year. NGConf is where I get to go see people who I haven't seen in a long time, that I have a lot of respect for and I want to reconnect with. So I I need to get better at getting accepted as a speaker at conferences is what it comes down to. For whatever reason, I'm not that great at writing proposals for talks. And so I don't get accepted. I just need to keep working at it, right? Eventually I'll be accepted. And then I won't have to worry about if I can afford to go or if the company that I'm working for has the budget to be able to send me, right? So that's one of the things that I'm working on personally. I'm looking forward to presenting at one of the bigger conferences. And we do have people that show up here. Like if Marcus shows up today, Marcus is, he's amazing. He's spoken at all sorts of conferences. He's spoken at NG India. Just a great guy. Alex obviously speaks at conferences and things like that. And so I'm hoping to join the ranks of the elite. Yeah, man, I got sniped there. Oh, hey. For whatever reason, Alex's comment about NG Poland didn't show up. Speaking of, if anyone will be at NG Poland, feel free to say hi. I'm at the Munich airport right now on my way to Warsaw for the conference a bit early. There you guys go. A personal invitation from Alex. If you're going to be at NG Poland, go say hi. And, just talk to him about, hey, you were on stream. That was really cool what you said about forums. Just start a conversation. Jason, you could be the keynote speaker at Wadena, Minnesota conference. I think that's Wadena, Minnesota, right? I don't have a travel budget. If you do it remote, I'd be happy to talk. I don't even know what Wadena, Minnesota is, but I'd be happy to talk about things. I'm happy. Like I do a lot of online talking. The Angular community meetup. I've spoken there a few times, and the one conference that it's very, very easy to get accepted to is TinyConf, but because I help organize that with Adi and Marcus, I've gotten in to being able to speak. But yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why Alex didn't show up on my multi-stream. Yeah. Anyway, let's get back into some code. Let's go ahead and commit this. And just to put, to tie it all up in a neat little bow, Alex is 100% correct that we've got one of the most friendly and knowledgeable communities out there. Just having somebody on the Angular core team who I think, are you one of the team leads for Angular, Alex? For some reason, that's in my head right now. I don't want to give you, I don't want to give you titles or responsibilities you don't have. But having somebody at that level who's just like, yeah, just if you're going to be at this conference, come say hi. That's amazing, and I love that about our community. All right. So let's talk about our application. It's kind of ugly right now. Hey, everything still works. We're getting the error messages and all of that. Let's clean this up. One thing I would like to do before we go throw something at it that I've never done before is I would like to get these items aren't working with this, right? Like if I click on this, all we do is we echo it out or we alert it. We aren't putting it into the form down here. There we go. Yep, team lead for the core framework. Yeah. So getting somebody at that level who's willing to talk to you and entertain your silly ideas that they've probably heard a million times. At least that's like my ideas. I feel like, they're probably silly. They've probably heard them a million times. Don't get in your head like I do. The reality is, um, everybody's experience is different. And this is why when people come to me and they're like, hey, I want to start writing articles. Hey, I want to start speaking. Hey, I want to start streaming. Hey, I want to do YouTube. What should I do it about? Do what you know. And the follow-up response to that is, but do you think it's too simple? My most rewatched streams, my most rewatched content is the stuff that most people would consider too simple. The people who are going to watch most of your content are the people who are learning. The people who are going to read most of your content are the people who are learning. Your stuff isn't too simple. So then, people are like, well, it's been done before. Absolutely, it's been done before. The stream that I'm doing right now has been done before by people who I would contend are better than me. Manfred has done an amazing stream on Signal Forms. Alex has done streams on Signal Forms. What's the difference? Why would I do Signal Forms? Well, my experience is different than theirs. The way I view software is different than theirs. The software that I've written is different from the software that everybody else has written. It's the same for you. No matter how simple you feel your point of view is, your point of view is different from my point of view. And I look at it as the people who are willing to create content are kind of like, everybody is in this valley. It's kind of the way the analogy I make. Everybody's down in this valley. I live in the Salt Lake area. If you've ever been to Salt Lake, to the west of me, there's giant mountains. To the east of me, there's giant mountains. And down in the valley, there's, just a whole bunch of houses and, trees and desert and whatever. The people who are willing to create the content are the people who are up on the valley saying, hey, there's something going on over here, or hey, there's something going on over there. And the reason I use the analogy of a valley is where I stand up on the mountains, maybe looking at it from the west, right? You may stand looking at it from the east. Our perspectives are different, and the perspectives that we give on this same thing that we're seeing is going to be different, and it's going to help people see that same thing from multiple angles. So if you want to create content, go do it. Create the content that you want to create. And you're going to help everybody who's down in the valley, like we say, see that content from different angles and perspectives. And it's going to paint a better picture. My brain was trying to mix picture and better, and I came out bitter. Better picture of what we're all seeing, right? And that's my, go help the community. You'll do awesome. My job relies on understanding what devs are trying to do. Talk to me and tell me what you're trying to do. 100%. And that's what I love about the Angular team. Alex isn't unique on that team. If you talk to anybody on that entire team, they all, at least from my perspective, feel the same way. I'm not going to speak for the Angular team, but when I've interacted with them, I feel like they feel the same way as Alex. That their job relies on understanding what people are doing with the tools that they're creating. And they care very deeply about what the community community thinks, regardless of what people online will tell you. Um, they're they're not as big a team as some of the other teams that are out there, and so they have to pick very carefully what they work on and what they talk about. Um, but they all listen. That's been my experience. Even way back before I started streaming or doing stuff like that, I could approach people on the Angular team and talk to them, and they would listen to me. Um, so it's not unique to my tiny position as a streamer. Um, I'm they're going to listen to you also, and I appreciate that Alex vocalizes that and lets people know. Anyway, let's I keep saying this, right? Let's make one. We need to make this form so that it appears and disappears appropriately. Um, um, you know, we only want this form to show up when there's been something selected. So the first thing we need to do is right now we've got this click event that's going to an alert. What we want this click event to do is to show the form with the values in it. The next thing we want to be able to do is save and cancel this form. Once we've got that in place, then I'm going to be comfortable going to the TANStack data table. Talked to Mark multiple times at ngconf, and he met my fiance at the airport. Was very tired that morning. Thought someone was trying to talk to a different Michael. Oh, Mark is another amazing person. Um, if you want to feel like 10 feet tall and just like pumped up, go talk to Mark. Mark will make you feel good about yourself. And that's what I love about Mark. I mean, besides the fact that he's a genius and he's brilliant and all of those other reasons to talk to him, my favorite thing about Mark is that every time I've ever interacted with him, I've always felt better about myself. Yeah, totally agree with you, Michael. Great guy to talk to. So let's figure out how we want to do this. I think the first thing we need to do, if we look at what we've built, we've got this to do. Currently, our to do has a for in line, but then we've got this form. And if we throw a defer around this form, right? Like if we just throw an at defer, it's not going to do anything for us. So right now, this defer is not doing anything for us. And we can prove that if we go into our network, and we refresh. Oh, it looks, oh, I am dropping. This is so weird. It's the last 20 minutes when suddenly I drop from. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, my bit rate dropped all of a sudden, but now it's back up to something okay. The other thing that's strange here is that when I look at my bit rate, yeah, it's rising and dropping. I'm not showing any dropped frames right now. Oh, wait. What's this? So I'm showing a 30 frames per second. I'm showing a drop of about 10% of my frames. That is annoying. Let me see. Let me just see if we go back to, let's transition over here. Hmm. It's saying my stream quality is good. But it says I'm dropping. It says I am dropping about 10% of my frames. I don't know why. Um, it is saying that my stream quality is good. So you guys let me know if my stream quality, like it's always the same time is the interesting thing. Um, that might give me insight into what's going on. Oh, my dropped frames just went way up.